All right, so we're diving deep today
Okay.
into a book that's been making waves,
Yeah.
The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
I've heard a lot about that one.
You know, it's not your typical Wall Street stock picking, how to get rich kind of book.
Right.
It's
Right.
more like, well, think of it as a deep dive into the psychology
Okay.
of how we think about money, how we interact with it,
Interesting.
and how those often hidden mental and emotional, I guess you could say currents, really drive a lot of our financial choices, whether we realize it or not.
Oh, I like that, the currents.
Yeah.
Makes you think about those underlying forces
Right.
shaping things.
And that's what Housel does so well in this book. He kind of like peels back those layers
Yeah.
and shows us the forces at play that go way beyond just numbers on a spreadsheet, you know.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
like he's saying money is more than just like dollars and cents.
Exactly.
It's a reflection of human behavior,
Yeah.
our psychology.
Wow. And I think one of the most fascinating takeaways from the book for me
Right.
was how much our early experiences, like our upbringing, shapes our financial habits.
Oh, absolutely. That really resonated with me too.
You know, it's almost like we inherit this kind of, almost like a financial DNA from our families.
Yeah, like financial programming.
Right. How our parents talked about money, how they managed it or mismanaged it.
Right.
You know, all those lessons.
It sticks with you.
Yeah, they imprint on us, you know, and shape our worldview when it comes to finances.
And it's not always conscious, right? It's like these underlying assumptions we have about money
Right.
that we don't even realize are there.
Yeah, it made me think about my own childhood, you know.
Yeah.
We weren't wealthy by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but my parents were always super conscious
Okay.
with money, always saving, budgeting, never really splurging.
Interesting.
And I could see how that, you know, instilled a sense of financial prudence in me.
I can see that.
But the book goes beyond just childhood, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It gets into like the bigger picture of how our minds work when it comes to money.
Yeah, it's like,
You know, like some of those biases and mental shortcuts we all take.
right, he talks about those a lot.
He talks about loss aversion, right?
Yes.
That idea that the pain of losing, say, $100
Yeah.
hits us way harder
So much harder.
than the joy of finding $100 on the street.
Yeah. You know, you lose a $100 bill,
Oh, it's the worst.
you feel terrible.
It's the worst.
But if you find one,
Right.
you're happy, but it's not like the equal and opposite feeling.
No, not at all.
It's fascinating.
And he talks about other biases too, right?
Yeah, like anchoring bias.
Yeah.
Which is where we get stuck on the first piece of information we hear,
Oh, yeah.
even if it's not relevant.
Right. Like if you see a car for sale and the first price you hear is like $10,000, that's your anchor.
Right, and then every other price.
Yep.
You see, for that car, you're comparing it to that first number.
Even if it's way too high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ah,
And Housel argues that understanding these biases
right.
can be more valuable than just mastering all the financial formulas.
I think he's onto something there.
Right. Like it's
Okay.
more about understanding your own psychology.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's this whole other layer he gets into.
Okay.
This idea of greed and happiness.
Well, yeah, the age-old question.
Right. Does more money actually make you happier?
Right.
And Housel kind of challenges that assumption head on.
He does.
He talks about the hedonic treadmill, right?
Yeah.
Like we're always striving for more.
Like we're running on that treadmill.
Right. But our happiness level never really changes.
It's like we adapt to our circumstances.
Right.
And then we just want more again.
So you're saying that chasing wealth
Yeah.
doesn't actually guarantee happiness.
Exactly.
Right. And that's where I think this idea of contentment comes in, which Housel really emphasizes in the book.
Yeah, and it's kind of a radical concept
Right.
in our society, you know?
Yeah.
We're always told to strive for more.
More, bigger, better.
Yeah, but Housel's saying maybe contentment is the real goal.
Right. And he talks about aligning your financial goals
Yeah.
with your values, you know, like what truly matters to you.
Exactly. Finding that balance, that
Yeah.
brings genuine satisfaction.
And I think one of the things that makes the psychology of money so effective
Yeah.
is that it doesn't just present these complex psychological ideas.
Right?
It makes them relatable.
He uses stories.
Yeah.
And anecdotes.
He weaves in all these stories
Yeah.
that bring the lessons to life.
It's engaging.
Yeah, like you're having a conversation
Yeah.
with a wise friend, you know.
Like he's just sitting across the table from you,
Right.
sharing his wisdom.
Remember that story about the lottery winner
Oh, yeah.
who ended up bankrupt and miserable?
Oh, it's a classic cautionary tale.
Right. Just highlights that money. It doesn't solve all your problems.
It's not a magic bullet.
No, not at all.
And sometimes it can even create new problems
Yeah.
if you don't have a healthy relationship with it.
Right, and that's what this book is all about, right?
Yes, yeah.
Building that healthy relationship with money.
Understanding your own motivations.
Yeah.
Your own psychology.
So to wrap things up,
Okay.
the psychology of money, it's not your typical finance book.
No, it's much more than that.
It's more like a journey of self-discovery
Yeah.
and understanding your relationship with money.
And ultimately, I think
Yeah.
it's about finding that sweet spot of contentment.
Contentment, that's the key takeaway.
Yeah, and I think a good question for listeners to reflect on is, are your current financial goals
Yeah.
truly leading you towards that feeling of contentment?
It's a powerful question.
It is.
It might spark some valuable self-reflection.
Yeah. Get you thinking about what really matters.
Absolutely. And if you're intrigued
Yeah.
by what we've talked about today,
Yeah.
I highly recommend you check out
Yeah.
The Psychology of Money. For yourself,
It's a great read.
it might just change the way you think about
Yeah.
wealth, happiness, and everything in between.
I think it will.
So that's our deep dive
Great deep dive.
into the psychology of money.
Very insightful.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time
Sounds good.
for another deep dive.
All right.